Have you given any thought to contributing to the melt? It's easy to do. Just click the Patreon link in the episode notes, and for as little as $3 a month, you can get access to bonus episodes, early access to regular episodes, and you can also participate in monthly Zoom meetups. It helps to keep the magic happening here at the Melt. So I encourage you to karmically entangle yourself with the Melt today by subscribing monthly for less than the price of a container of goatee wax, or a prosthetic pinky, or a half stick of DMT butter, or an inflatable casket, or the shrunken head of an Atlantean supermodel, or a woolly mammoth merkin, or a crystalline replica of Baba Yaga's hut, or a capsule of Sasquatch dander.
This is Hunter Muse.
And this is Chris Snipes, and you are listening
to The Melt.
There was a time when I wouldn't have had an episode about Flat Earth. I think it was because it was such a contentious issue and I hadn't come to any of my own conclusions about it for lack of having done research on it. It felt like I would need to prepare for a debate and come off as if I were trying to defend a narrative that I wasn't even sure of. Flat Earth might just be the bottom rung of the cuckoo ladder in many people's eyes, but I've come to learn that those are the sorts of things that should be explored all the more. If there's anything that the last 2 years should have taught us, it's that when the mainstream are so quick to condemn something and are at the ready to ridicule anyone even remotely aligning themselves with, much less merely looking into such a narrative, then it becomes imperative to figure out why. I believe the thing that eventually convinced me was hearing Crow say that nothing should be outside of the realm of inquiry. An open mind is the only way that we're going to even begin to venture outside of our comfort zone. And outside of our comfort zone is the only place that we're going to learn anything new. So you will be seeing the Flat Earth narrative being explored more and more on the Melt, as those who would try to tell us which lines to color between are intriguing us with their staunch disapproval of this subject. Thanks for indirectly cluing us into where the treasure lies, you chuckleheads. Today's guest, David Weiss, is well versed in all things Flat Earth. He's got an excellent app that he mentions in the chat, and it's a great place to start for the flat curious. Hunter starts off the conversation by asking David how he got started in all of this.
So I was doing a conspiracy podcast called Deep Inside the Rabbit Hole, looking into all sorts of deceptions that have been cast upon people of the world. And it got into really deep things. I'm sure you guys are aware that lots of the major events that happen in this world aren't as described.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then some fans in the second or third year started sending me, "Hey, Dave, have you looked into Flat Earth?" And when I first started getting these, I just like, "Oh, that's funny." And I didn't look. And then they kept coming, they kept posting on our social media and commenting. And I would ban these people for life for being so stupid to even ask me to look into such a stupid topic. Of course, we live on a spinning space bear ball flying through an infinite universe, you know?
Right.
Of course. And then finally, I was talking with good friend Sophia Smallstorm, who's a researcher. And she said, "Dave, you got to look into flat Earth. And I looked. She sent me Mark Sargent's Clues. Mark Sargent, he started making a series of short videos called Flat Earth Clues, and I think they were into, I don't know, 5, 6 of them already. And I watched them, and I'm like, that's very interesting. And I said, well, I'm just going to disprove this flat Earth nonsense, and I'm going to prove the globe. And then when I realized how stupid the globe model is, we're spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. Okay. So think about this. You guys like watching the sunset?
Yes.
Love it.
Beautiful, calm, peaceful.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, on the heliocentric model, you're on the top of a ball falling over backwards faster than the speed of sound. And that's why the sun appears to go down, because you're spinning over backwards. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
While that's going on, you're orbiting the sun at 66,000 miles an hour. And you're chasing the sun at 500,000 miles per hour. I encourage your listeners to Google on YouTube the hypersonic sled track. Oh, that's not going to show up here, but that's all right. The hypersonic sled track. And what it is, that thing goes by a Mach 8.6. You can't even see it. It's unbelievable, right? Am I frozen? Did I freeze?
You did.
You did freeze.
I did freeze. What the heck happened? I'm going to disappear.
Oh, there
There
you
you
go.
go.
Yeah.
Now you're back.
But now I'm gone
Hey.
again. I'll be back in 1 second. I'm still here. So you guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that thing goes by at Mach 8.6, right? You can't even see it. The sound is shocking. Well, you have to believe that we're orbiting 10 times faster than that, and we're chasing the sun at 100 times faster than that in the heliocentric model. Absolute insanity. Absolute insanity.
It sounds like a lot of motion. Sounds like we would just be barely keeping our bearings.
So people say, when I'm on an airplane, I could drink a glass of water and I can go for a walk and go to the bathroom, right? And I say, well, if you really want to compare that to just the spin of the Earth, forget the other motions. You'd have to double the speed of the airplane. You'd have to take off the outer shell of the airplane, and you'd have to ask the pilot to nosedive a mile every 2 minutes.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. And that's the path that the Earth is taking, right? And I was like, it makes no sense. People say, well, you're going 1,000 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour. It doesn't matter as long as it's a straight line. Well, none of these motions of the corkscrewing Earth are straight lines. They're all curved.
Yeah.
Curving is acceleration. Imagine you're in a car, perfectly smooth road, nice car, and you have a dinner plate. You're going 100 miles an hour. You have a dinner plate, and you filled it with water. Now, if that car speeds up, slows down, or takes the slightest turn, what happens to that water? It sloshes all over the place.
Yeah. Right.
But we can go out into nature and see lakes that are perfect glass. What is nature telling you when you look at a perfect glass water?
No movement is happening.
No movement at all.
Yeah.
Right. So getting back into why, how it happened. So I started looking. I tried to disprove it. I tried to prove the globe, and after 2 weeks, I was like, oh my God. And then on the podcast, I'm like, I can't talk about this. This is going to just discredit me to everyone. And then after a short period of time, I'm like, this is the truth. I got to bring it out. And I brought it out. Lots of opposition. This was back in 2015, 2016. And now it's hard to find, with all the interviews I do, it's hard to find anyone that checks off the box in my reservation form saying that it's a globe. Very few people do. Like, I get flat and stationary. Okay, I'm talking to flat earthers. I'm preaching to the choir, but it's good because we reach some other people. Then there's people like yourselves that say not so sure. You know what not so sure means? It means the same thing as flat and stationary, right? It's just that you're not ready to admit it out loud yet.
I'm flat curious. Let's say that.
You're flat curious. That's for sure.
I'm here to be persuaded.
And so then with all of the nonsense going on in the world, people go, when you're talking to someone, they go, what about, boats over the horizon? What about Aristophanes, sticks and shadows? What about sunsets? What about seasons? And then when you give them the answers to these things, like we can go over as we talk through this, they finally, their egos give up and they go, well, what difference does it make? I still have to go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
I still have to pay my bills, right?
Yes.
And that's the biggest thing. If who are they? We can get into that also. The people that are controlling our world, the people that have taken over, have hijacked our reality, if they can convince us that we're spinning through an infinite space vacuum, that we can get taken out by an asteroid, that we're running out of land, we're running out of water, we're running out of dinosaur juice, right, for fuel, right, which is another ridiculous thing. If they can convince you of that, they can convince you of anything. Look what's going on in the world right now. This is all theater. It's all theater.
Absolutely.
And it's too
Go ahead.
good.
Oh, I was just going to say it lends you to feeling insignificant and you're just in the middle of this random thing.
You're nothing. You're a speck in a godless or at best distant God universe. Okay. I was best described as an atheist. I believed in evolution. I loved cosmology. I loved astronomy. I took 4 years of astronomy in college. I was really good at it. And I knew all the stuff. And I used to laugh at people that believed in astrology. That's so stupid. How can, Mars retrograde, which is a rock, 25 million miles away, how can that affect my day? How it can't even affect the tides. That's all nonsense. Right? Mars is here within the Earth system. It's energetic. It's named after a god for some reason. All of the wandering stars are. And then when you put that all together, you're like, it changes everything. When you wake people, when I used to wake people up, I had a thing called Exposing the Big Three. It was about 3 major events that happened in the Northeast here. And I figured, wow, people see that. They're really easy to see. Problem is, some people woke up, some people went right back to sleep. And like, well, they make excuses. But you wake someone up to the flat Earth, they're done. They're never going back. They're never forgetting about it. And they're going to tell everyone they know, everyone they're going to want to tell everybody. This is the one thing that it's the biggest secret of the elite. It's the way they control us. And without this lie, they lose all of their power. And what is their power? Their power is in our imagination. The only power anyone has over you is in your imagination. And they've got our imagination flying through space. They can tell us anything and we'll just believe it.
Yeah. So you've mentioned a firmament before too. How does that fit into this flat Earth cosmology? They mention it in the Bible.
Page 1, God separated the waters from the waters and created the firmament. If you look into NASA was started by Werner von Braun, a Nazi scientist, allegedly rocket scientist. Rockets aren't real. What do you mean rockets aren't real? I could show you where you can learn all about that. But he came over and started NASA, a Nazi rocket scientist. I used to think, oh, that's pretty cool. We might as well. War's over. We'll take over them and we'll lead the space race. But on his gravestone, he has Psalms 19:1. The heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament showeth his handiwork. That's talking about the firmament, the dome over us. So here's the question. Is there a dome over us? Is there?
That's a great question. That's what we're here to talk about.
So here's one thing. You can't have high pressure next to low pressure or no pressure or vacuum without a physical barrier. But that's science. That's physics. And, and we can do a million tests. I can take if you had a 2-story house and the top story, you sucked all the air out of it and you had a hose valve going into the room and you opened it up, what's going to happen? It's all going to equalize instantly. So that means that low pressure, that vacuum can pull air up and away from gravity. How come the unbelievable vacuum of space, which we can't even recreate on Earth here, NASA has a vacuum chamber. It's got like walls 8 feet thick of lead and concrete, so it doesn't implode when you suck the air out of it. And they can't even suck all the air out of it because air pressure is so friggin' strong. And how come it doesn't suck the air away from Earth? And the only answer that the globe zombies, which I used to be one, would say is gravity. Gravity's holding the air down, and the Earth is spinning, and it's making the air spin with the Earth, so you don't notice it. But a summer breeze can blow the air left and right, up and down. I could jump in the air. A butterfly can fly. People in Australia are upside down, right? All of that is complete and total nonsense, right? So we're told that space is a vacuum. Well, therefore we have to have a firmament. I don't think space is a vacuum. I think space is liquid. I think space is water. I think it's that easy. Okay, God separated the waters from the waters. And there's so much evidence of that also. And if you watch any of the NASA rocket launches, they all curve out and go into the ocean. That's why we have the Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
All of the, all the rockets go up, they curve out, and then they crash into the water out of sight. So what's going on there?
Yeah. Good point. I like it. And they, when they broadcast a rocket launch, they don't stay on it for very long. You usually see the launch, and then they cut to people talking about how wonderful and great it is.
And usually less than 60 seconds, they're showing you a cartoon. But sometimes they're showing you a cartoon from the very beginning. So they use all different types of rockets, right? Like the space shuttle, and upset a lot of people, was a blimp. That external orange tank was a helium blimp, like a Macy's Day Parade balloon.
Interesting.
Okay. NASA controls all of the helium on Earth and is the largest consumer of helium on Earth. And then when you look at these things, and this, remember when those rockets took off? They took off so slow.
Mm-hmm.
What's going on there? It's a rocket-assisted helium balloon. It goes up, it curves out, it goes out over the ocean, and it crashes. I think they just sink them.
So the pyrotechnics are all just theater.
All theater. But sometimes, one time we were watching a NASA launch. And no, it wasn't just we were watching something on NASA, and we had lots of images and stuff, and we were zooming in on equipment. We're like, what are those big spotlights on their lawn? And we like, I guess they're giant spotlights, but then we saw the nameplate, and we got like a serial number, and we found out it was a holographic projection company. So sometimes when they launch something like I'm showing on the screen right now, this is a launch. I call this the 2-pack rocket because it's not real. It's a complete and total hologram. There's nobody there. This is just a video that we've seen. But sometimes things happen when they're doing stuff live, and they do very little live now. The top half of the rocket disappeared, right? And the camera like freaked out. The top half of the rocket just glitched out and was gone.
Wow.
And when you watch any NASA rocket launch or SpaceX, within the first 10 seconds, there's at least 5 movie cuts. Cut, different angle, different camera, different camera. They never show you the whole thing. So
interesting.
It's so interesting. And there was a recent launch where the rocket didn't go up. It didn't have enough thrust, and it kind of just went sideways, right? It went sideways, just like hovering above the ground. Like, what is going on there? Right? And they use all different type of techniques. Sometimes you're looking at something and they're lifting it up with a wire. You just don't see the crane above it. Sometimes it's a miniature rocket and they make it look big, right? No one has ever watched the space shuttle launch from closer than 10 miles, okay? 10 miles away. The space shuttle's tiny.
Yeah.
Tiny.
Yeah.
It's a speck. And then, then they cut to just a shot looking down at the engine, the glowing engine, and everybody's hypnotized by that and thinks it's real. It's unbelievable. The only time you get a full uncut is when they do an amateur rocket, which very few are done. There was one a bunch of years ago called the Go Fast rocket. It went up in Arizona, and it went straight up. They had a camera on it looking down, a camera looking sideways, uninterrupted. It went up 73 miles, and guess what happened? It went kerplunk. It went into something more viscous, not like water, more like plasma or something. And it was fascinating. And so you watch that, but when the camera rolled on its side, all of a sudden you could see across the black sky, and we could see the moon. All right, that's cool. We're up high. We see the moon. It's noontime here or whatever. But we found out that the moon was over Australia at that time. Okay. Wow. The moon was over Australia, and we're in Arizona. What did I say? Arizona, yeah. And so if the Earth was a basketball and Arizona was the top of the ball, that rocket's barely a millimeter over that ball, and the moon is underneath the ball. How did the rocket see the moon?
Yeah, good point.
Can you talk about the Space Shuttle Challenger and that explosion that I think horrified people all over the world because they thought they saw a group of astronauts basically die in front of their very eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was trauma-based mind control. That was the first time they dragged TVs into all the classrooms.
Yep.
And it was to kick the can down the road. It was also to traumatize children. That's one of their favorite things to do. But the space shuttle itself, as I told you a while ago, it's a blimp. And oftentimes you can see it wobbling in the wind. Like when there's a windy day, it's literally wobbling. 4 million pounds doesn't wobble. 4 million pounds doesn't go up and down. Okay. And when you watch the thing take off, it goes up really slow. It does a little bounce before it goes off. So the rocket lights a little bit, and you'll see it go up a little bit and then down. You know why? Because it doesn't weigh much. Because it's a blimp. It's a blimp. And if you just Google space shuttle launch, the #1 hit on YouTube is like a 4 or 5 minute video. And they'll show you this edited video where they'll show people looking at it. They're really close, and then it'll cut to it. Like they want you to think that people are right there.
Right.
They're 10 miles away. I live on Long Island Sound. Long Island's 5 miles across. You can't see anything. It's 5 miles away. 10 miles away. The thing is literally like an ant.
Yeah.
You can't see it. And it's behind a tree line, so you really can't see anything. But one of the amazing things, when the space shuttle goes up, they were launching something. It wasn't a 2-pack rocket because there's a trail of smoke. Sometimes there's a trail of thick smoke, and sometimes there's no trail. Well, no trail is a fake rocket, and a trail is a real rocket. How big is this rocket? I don't think it's very big at all. But they do stuff. You know, the external tank, they parade it through a town and people can touch it. That's a real tank. But that's not what they're sending up to space. So people see that and people see the shuttle here and there. But when it launches, nobody's there. Right. But on that video, you have the solid engine, the solid rocket boosters that are on the outside. And they tell us once those are lit, you can't turn them off. Okay. And then when they release, there's explosive bolts that they release. And in the video, you'll see the explosive bolts go off and you'll see them separate at the same time. And you hear it in the video at the exact same time. What's wrong with that? If the rocket was 35 miles down range, but when they separated, you heard it at the exact same time. If it was only 20 miles down range, we'll round down, give them the benefit of the doubt. It would take 90 seconds for that sound to catch up to what you saw.
Yeah. Right.
90. It's a minute and a half. Okay. But we see it and we hear it at the same time. You know why? Because we're watching a movie. Yeah. We're watching a movie.
So do you think that I've heard, at least on Crow's show, they talk about
listen to Crow, you're full on flat earther.
Hell, we've had him on the show. We've talked to Crow not too long ago, actually. Are the satellites on balloons too? Is that?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So satellites are, if you just Google, you can find it, say NASA satellite launch Antarctica. That's where they do most of the launching of the satellites, which is pretty amazing.
And which makes sense since it's so off limits.
Yeah, well, that too. And they launch them other places also, but mostly Antarctica. And you have to believe that all of these satellites are following the Earth. Like geostationary satellite is over the same piece of land while the Earth is spinning, corkscrewing, chasing the sun, curving in all different directions, 4 different directions at once. But somehow that satellite mirrors all of those motions. And, the only thing you're going to hear is gravity, gravity.
But gravity.
But gravity. Right. So it's pretty sad when, if you, where am I looking? I'm looking for satellites. How come my satellite is not there? Oh, if you watch these launches, NASA admits it. They have balloons up there that are bigger than football stadiums.
Wow.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, and sometimes they're seen transiting the moon, which is fascinating, right? And you watch these things go up there. They can weigh up to 8,000 pounds. These balloons stay up there. They admit they stay up there for at least a year. They probably stay up there for much longer. And they're also crashing all over the Earth. And people are getting them on film. Crow's Law says anything interesting that can be filmed in high definition will be filmed in high definition. Yes. Well, these satellites with balloons are filmed in high definition. The 24-hour sun in Antarctica has never been filmed. Okay. I mean, there's fake videos of it. And when you start looking at these things, you really, there's no denying it. These aren't theories. These are real things. There's no photos of satellites in space ever. Right? Google satellite in space and then click images, and all you get is cartoons.
Right. So I have a very quick question to circle back to the firmament. Let's opine that we are in some kind of an encasement, and the stars that we see are pinholes in that firmament. What's on the other side of that?
You want me to answer that?
Hell yeah.
Are they pinholes? We launched a balloon in Arizona at nighttime with high def cameras looking up. Super clear night in the pitch black. And before it even took off, star-filled sky, and the camera can see them. Unlike NASA's cameras that can never see stars because they can't get the aperture right. Right? Okay. And so it went up. What's going to happen when it gets up higher and higher? What's going to get it? What are we going to see? The stars are going to get brighter and brighter because they're going to get through the thickest part of the atmosphere.
Sure.
Get brighter and brighter and brighter. Well, by the time it hit 50, 60, 70,000 feet, all the stars were gone.
Wow.
Right? Long before I was a flat earther, I love stargazing. I went to flew from California to Australia. I think we left at like midnight. I was excited to be over the middle of the ocean and look out the window and see the stars. I looked out, I could see like 2 stars. 2, and they were probably planets. I just didn't know it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Right? Planets, whatever planet is.
Luminaries.
It's unbelievable. Now, on my app, the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, there's all of the questions that you're asking about are answered on the app. And you know, so this is a conversation that is interesting to have, but the visuals really help.
Yes.
And on the app, I have a frequently asked questions button. And if you click if you click satellites, you'll find a whole playlist of of videos about satellites and how they really work and what's really going on. And stuff that if you Google it on YouTube, they won't show up. They're shadow banned. Even if you type the exact name of the video, they won't show up. Why are they hiding these videos? And they're hiding them because they don't want you to know where you live. And again, people say, where do you get your information from? YouTube? Where did you learn to fix your carburetor on your car from?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. YouTube. Where did you fix your toilet from? YouTube. How did you know how to mend a broken leg? YouTube. Okay. Everything's on YouTube, real and fake. But when I started seeing videos of boats going over the horizon and being zoomed back in, showing that they didn't go over the horizon, I went out and bought a P900 super zoom camera, tripod, went down to the beach. I zoomed in on a buoy that should have been under 66 feet of curvature, but I could see the buoy. It's there. And not only can I see it, I could see the water beyond it.
Yeah. Is that the video that's on your YouTube channel?
I have so many videos on my channels.
I saw one last night that is exactly what you described, and it was fucking amazing.
Yeah, there's so many. And again, on the app, if you click the boats over the horizon, ships over the horizon button, there's so many great videos on there. And there's one of them called Mirror Line Horizon, Empty Thea Princess. This girl did an amazing job in this 11-minute video showing this ship just going away. And she filmed it, and you could watch how it morphs and changes and goes behind what she calls the mirror line and the wavefront edge. Once you understand these things that they don't teach you in school, then you could see what you're really seeing.
So what do you think is the main reason behind the agenda to keep this knowledge out of the public parlance?
So if you were the rulers of the planet, the rich royal family, the 1/10 of 1/10 of 1/10 of 1%, and you had your way, you controlled banking, you controlled everything. You have everything you want. You don't even need money because you create money. And you have this population of these ignorant people, well, they don't, you have this population of people. Are you going to teach them stuff that might challenge your authority? Are you going to teach them stuff that makes them realize who they are, where they are, what they are, the power of their minds? Are you going to teach them anything useful? Or are you going to teach them to become good worker slaves? What kind of math do they teach you in school? They teach you algebra and geometry, regular geometry. They teach you accounting, right? Because they want you working in their little slave system.
Yeah.
They don't teach you about vortex mathematics and sacred geometry and all of the stuff that could challenge who they are. So if you're again, if you're lost in space, spinning out of control, and think that the world's overpopulated, you are very controllable. If you think that Kim Jong-un is going to blow us up with nuclear bombs, when in fact Kim Jong-un is probably just a mental patient that they use as an actor. North Korea is nothing like they say, and nuclear bombs don't exist. You guys know that, right? You're Crow listeners.
Yes.
Yeah.
So back to Hunter, what Hunter was intimating at beyond the firmament. I know obviously there's no way that we can know what is beyond there, but what are maybe some ideas or theories that a flat earther might entertain? I know there's the puddle theory, which maybe you can explain, and if there's any others.
I'm a big a big fan of the puddle theory. And the puddle theory is, our world is just, we live in the Antarctic basin. So all large bodies of water, anything over a cup of water needs a container, because if you don't have a container, the water's gone. The edge of a pond is where the land is consistently higher than the water. That's the container, right? Antarctica is the container of our world pond. It's the highest land on Earth. I always found that interesting. Highest land on Earth, because we live in the Antarctic basin, period. Antarctica could very well be much, much bigger than all of the oceans and all of the continents combined. So what's beyond Antarctica? Well, we're not allowed to go beyond 60 degrees south. You can pay a ton of money and go just to that little peninsula off of South America where they'll show you some penguins and some ice, and they won't let you explore. The treaty's been in place since 1959, and it can't even be questioned until the year 2041. Interesting. There's no other treaty that lasted the test of time. But, all of a sudden, Admiral Byrd says there's land that's not frozen, filled with resources that can supply the whole world, and no human has ever stepped foot upon it. Oops, Antarctic Treaty, nobody can go there. We must protect the penguins and the ice. We can't drop a cigarette butt on the ice. But go ahead and deforest the Amazon, the lungs of the world.
Yeah, no
That's
shit.
fine.
Yeah.
Right. And nobody can go there. But meanwhile, we have a lot of dignitaries, a lot of, important people in politics going down there really weird days. John Kerry went down there on election day in the past election or 2 elections ago. That was interesting. I contend that maybe the real rulers of the world live on the shorelines beyond Antarctica. So what's beyond there? If Antarctica is the land that surrounds our inner world, maybe it's only 1,000 miles or a couple thousand miles wide. And then there's ocean again. And then there's more land. And out there could be another sun that orbits around, just like ours circles around, right? And that extra land would be considered extra territory. If you lived on the extra territory outside of Antarctica and you came to visit, what might I consider you?
Good question.
What would I call you?
An interloper.
An extraterrestrial.
Right.
Yeah.
From where? Outer
space. Right.
Outer Antarctica.
Outer Antarctica. And if you really think about it, the Arctic and the Antarctic, why do they call the Arctic and the Antarctic? And the answer is, if the way it works is you have the equator on the flat Earth that divides halfway from the center and halfway to the outside. You have the Tropic of Cancer, which is a circle halfway between the equator and the center, and you have the Tropic of Capricorn, which is halfway between the equator and the outer edge of Antarctica. Okay, and the sun migrates in between those two locations every 6 months. Right, 6 months in, June 21st, it's in the Tropic of Cancer, and then January 21st, it's on December December 21st, it's on the Tropic of Capricorn. So when it's on the Tropic of Cancer, and if you could imagine this, why the listeners are going, the sun, and you are inside the inner circle. So anything north of the Tropic of Cancer, so all of North America, Canada, Alaska, Norway, you're in the Arctic region. Makes sense? You're in the Arctic region. Well, what does the sun do over the course of the day and the years? It arcs around you when you're in the Arctic region, the Arctic. It arcs around. But what if you're outside of the Tropic of Capricorn and you're out in Antarctica or in South America? It's not arcing around you. It's coming toward you, and then it's going away from you. It's antarcing.
Right.
The Antarctic.
Gotcha. That makes
the Arctic
total sense.
And the Antarctic.
Yeah.
And the whole thing, seasons, absolutely ridiculous on the ball. Makes perfect sense on a flat Earth. Real quick. So what state are you guys in?
Kansas.
You're in Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's cold there, right?
It
Hell
is
yes.
today. Tomorrow.
All right. So let's say we're getting a snowstorm tonight. I'm here in Connecticut.
Aha, gotcha.
So let's say I came to visit you and we go out and you have corn there, right? A lot of corn,
Yes.
cornfield.
Yeah.
And
So
wheat. We're wheat.
Yeah. So
wheat people.
So we decide you and I were going to sit out there, and we're sitting 20 feet apart. Okay. So two of us are sitting out there. How about you two are sitting out there 20 feet apart? Okay. And you're both freezing your butts off. And Dave Weiss comes over, and I got a 10-foot long pole with a super heat lamp on it. And I walk right over one of you and I hold it 10 feet over your head. Now you're going to feel warm, right? And you look up and point to that. You're pointing straight up. That's your summer sun. Well, the other person is 20 feet away. They're going to see that light lower in the sky. If they point to it, they're pointing at like maybe a 45-degree angle, not straight up like you, 90 degrees. They're pointing over there. It's lower in the sky. And are they going to feel the heat? Not so much. It's too far away. That's your winter sun. Now, if I walked over towards you without lowering it at all, right? 6 months, I walked over. One of you is on the Tropic of Capricorn. One of you is on the Tropic of Cancer. So if I walked over to you, the one that I'm walking towards, if you pointed at it, you're pointing at 45 degrees, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Now it's directly over you. You watched it rise over you, and now you're warm. That's your summer sun. And the other person that was over their head, as they walked away, they watched it go down, 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 down. And now they're pointing at it, and it's 45 degrees. That's why your winter sun is farther away, lower in the sky, and cold. If we had this tilt thing, it's absolutely ridiculous. Here in New York, it might be similar. I'm in Connecticut, right next to New York. It might be you're at a similar latitude. In June, on June 21st, when I go down to the water and the sun appears on the horizon, I could feel the sun on my face immediately. If I stayed there for an hour, I'd get tanned. Okay, I'm warm. It's nice. Well, in the heliocentric nonsensical model that they tell us, during our northern summer, the sun is 3.5 million miles farther away than it is in the winter. So remember, when it's on the horizon, which is the most severe tilt the Earth could be of a spinning ball to the sun in relation, I could feel the heat on my face and get tan. But in the winter, in December, at solar noon, when the sun is at its highest point for the day, a much more direct angle and 3.5 million miles closer, I could look at the sun and not even feel the heat on my face. I won't get tan. Why is that? It's because it's farther away.
So I lived in Australia for 4 years.
Yes.
And I went there in our winter time, their summertime.
Yes.
How do you reconcile that it's summer in Australia and it's winter in North America?
So I encourage everybody to get my app. It's called the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app.
I've got it.
I'm talking to your listeners.
Yeah. And I'm promoting it.
And right now, when we're looking at it, the sun is it's noon near Sydney, Australia. Mm-hmm. It's noon because wherever the sun is on the sky clock, it's noon. So right now, every day in Australia, it's getting colder and colder because the sun is moving in. The sun is slowly moving in towards the inner north.
Gotcha.
So when it's all the way in, all right, when it's all the way in like June, it's close to our north, and it's close. Now, a place like Alaska, check this out. Alaska is kind of like just in the perfect spot, and Norway, the sun never gets far enough away to set. The sun doesn't go over the ball; it goes away, and then it sets behind an optical horizon. We can get into that. And so in the north in June, the sun never gets far enough away from these inner northern, very centrally located places where it never sets. Well, it's winter in Australia.
Right.
It's winter. It's winter. It doesn't get that cold in Australia because Australia, half of it's in between the tropics. The tropics are where the sun never leaves. If you're in the tropics, the sun passes over you twice a year. Where we are in the north, the sun never passes over us. The sun passes over Miami. It comes there in June and then it leaves again, but it doesn't go any farther north, any farther towards the center. So seasons only make sense on a flat Earth. They make perfect sense on a flat Earth. And once you see it, again, in the app, hit the question mark button, hit the what about seasons, and in there comes a whole bunch of great videos that really explain how seasons work better than I just did.
It does snow in Australia. It does snow in the Hunter Valley, in the mountains. It
does snow in the outer southern part of Australia.
Yes.
Right. And also it snows in Hawaii because the height, the whole sun, heat thing. The reason it's hot down lower, it's because the air is thicker and the sun's electric in nature, and that electricity, it gets hot.
So I'm going back to the firmament and going back to, I'm just fascinated by that aspect of it. So in this cosmology, the sun and the moon would be inside of the firmament, right?
Great question. Great question. So I'm trying not to be too graphical here because we got an audio audience. But I'm gonna show you guys something.
Yeah.
So the it's very interesting what we see. Like the sun and the moon, I don't think that the sun and the moon that we see, I don't think they're physical objects. So in the frequently asked questions, one thing first, and the Antarctica and the 24-hour sun button, there's a whole bunch of videos there, but there's a couple that are called about sky ice. That's about the firmament. That one will blow your mind, right?
Okay.
I highly recommend that you watch that.
I will definitely check it out.
In the eclipses button, I did a little experiment where I filmed the sun. So I'm showing you guys, but no one else can see, of course. I filmed the eclipse. This is I filmed the eclipse on a kind of it was a kind of the day was a little foggy, if you will. And so I filmed the eclipse, and then I made an eclipse with a back projection, like a rear projection. So what I did is I got a light in a tube and I projected it onto a paper towel, and then I eclipsed it with a bottle cap. Like I just took a Snapple bottle cap and I eclipsed it. And when we're watching from the other side of the paper, I can't see that bottle cap. But when you watch an eclipse, you don't ever see the moon, ever. You just see something eclipsing it. So what is eclipsing it? Is it in front of the sun? It's not, because we don't see it. But there was an eclipse filmed somebody filmed it, and when the eclipse was like 80%, this guy was filming it. He saw there was a lens flare flying around, but there was also another, like a little eclipsed, like a miniature right next to the sun, but it wasn't moving. It was locked in position with the sun. Okay. And we're like, what is that? It's not a lens flare because it's not moving, right? It was right there, locked to the sun. So then I said, what if that was the projector? So I have my projector. I can create the same thing. You don't see the moon, right? During a total eclipse, you can zoom in on the eclipse and you'll never see the moon because it's not there. It's not there. And it makes no sense because it would be lit up by the earth shine. So then I said, wait a minute. If the sky is like a movie screen and the sun is being projected in there, and the moon, when it's lit, is being projected in there, what if it's more transparent than my paper towel? So I did it with some tissue. And when I did it with some tissue, I could see through the tissue and see my source. Mm-hmm. I could see the source projector. And when I compared it to the eclipse, it was exactly the same.
Interesting.
You understand? Did you follow that?
Yeah, I think I did.
Yep.
Yeah. And Go ahead.
How about like Hale-Bopp and these astral events that are apparently in our atmosphere? Talk about that.
So the things that they tell us they are complete and total nonsense. Halley's Comet comes back every 76 years. Meanwhile, we're corkscrewing through space 4.4 billion miles a year. That thing goes away to who knows where, and then it finds us again. 4.4 billion times 76. That's how many miles away from where we were the last time it came. Somehow it finds us. Cool story, bro. Right? It's absolute nonsense. Right? So Hale-Bopp is a light in the sky. And as Crow says, the only thing that we can say about any of the lights in the sky, other than airplanes and things that we know what they are, is that they're lights. We don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But think about this. You guys ever look up and see Jupiter, Mars, Venus?
Yes.
Right? Yeah. They're all brighter than any star. They're amazingly bright. But why are they lit? According to the heliononsensical BS model, they're reflecting sunlight. Okay? So let's take Jupiter, for example. Jupiter, they tell us, is a gaseous planet, and it's damn far away from us and farther from the sun. So when we look up and we see the sun about the size of a nickel or a quarter, maybe, held at arm's length. Okay? That's how we see the sun. But if you're on Jupiter, the sun's going to look like a large star at best. Maybe it'll be the size of like a pencil eraser held at arm's length, right? The end of a pencil, the diameter of a pencil. Okay? You have to believe that that small little sun in the distance is lighting up this gaseous, non-reflective planet. Okay? And then that light is bouncing back to Earth brighter than any star. Does that make any sense to you?
It doesn't. Actually,
it doesn't make any sense at all. And when you actually see, like NASA shows us a clip of Jupiter with the clouds spinning in different directions.
Mm-hmm.
It was a probe that went by Jupiter, whatever. It's absolute nonsense. And then when you look at the pictures they show us, of Jupiter, they absolutely are ridiculous. They never change. They show, they have like models of Jupiter that they use, and then they just Photoshop them into, every image that they want. And when they show us different pictures of Jupiter for over 2 years apart, the clouds never change. Every single cloud is the same. They're faking all of this stuff, and people are just too stupid to challenge them. Oh, no, NASA could lie. It's too big of a lie. So scientifically, we can prove that little tiny sun can't bounce off of a gaseous planet and come back and be brighter than any star in the sky. It doesn't work. And there's also a problem called the inverse square law of light, which is light source, light reflected, whatever. Every time you double the distance, it's a quarter of the brightness.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
It's light only goes so far.
Mm-hmm.
Light only goes so far, and then it fades out because it's spreading out, so it's getting weaker and weaker.
Yeah, of course.
Right? As it's exponentially getting weaker and weaker. If I had a light that was 100 lumens and on a ping pong ball, and then if I doubled the size of that ping pong ball, well, now it's only 25 lumens. And if I doubled the size of that ping pong ball, it's now only 5 lumens.
Mm-hmm.
And if I doubled it, now it's only 1 lumen.
Yeah.
Okay? It's going to be gone soon. Right? And so the inverse square law of light, that's one issue. But even if you take that out, let's look at Polaris. Okay? So they tell us our sun is this giant ball and we're a tiny speck next to it.
Right.
So if the sun was just a mile in the sky, it would fill your entire sky, horizon to horizon.
Mm-hmm.
It would just be, you'd be a tiny little speck underneath that sun, and you look up and it'd fill everything. Then you move the sun 93 million miles away, and it gets smaller due to perspective. It's now the size of a coin held at arm's length. What happens if I made that 8 times farther? 8 times the distance. It would be so small your eye couldn't see it.
Exactly.
Right.
Forget the inverse square law problem. 8 times farther, probably 3 times farther, is scientifically provable. 8 times farther, the reason I say 8 is because the sun is 8 light minutes away. If it's 8 times farther, it's about a light hour away. At a light hour away, It is scientifically provable, but that the sun is infinitesimally smaller than anything our eye could resolve. Okay, just remember that. Now they tell us Polaris, our North Star, is 48 times bigger than the sun. So how do we make it equivalent? 48 times 1 light hour is 48 hours, 2 light days away. If Polaris was 2 light days away and the size that they tell us, forgetting the inverse square law problem, it would be infinitesimally too small to see. Great. You know how far they tell us Polaris is?
No.
Want to guess? So 2 light hours, we couldn't see it.
2,000 light years away.
Good answer. 433 light years away.
Wow.
You cannot fathom, in your brain is incapable at this point of actually understanding what that number is.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at another thing. The closest star is Alpha Centauri. It's 4.5 light years, about 25 trillion miles away.
Mm-hmm.
All of the other stars are magnitudes farther. That's our next door neighbor. And his next door neighbor isn't even that close. It's close, right? So the closest star is Alpha Centauri. Let's pretend we're going to go to Alpha Centauri and I put you in a rocket ship and you're traveling a mile per second. No human has ever gone a mile per second. A mile per second, 3,600 miles an hour. Okay? If you went a mile per second for 100 seconds, how many miles have you gone? Easy. Mile per second times 100 seconds, you've gone
100 miles. Yeah.
100 miles. Very easy. They don't teach us to think like this in school. It's amazing. So if you went for 1 trillion seconds, how many miles have you gone?
Trillion miles.
1 trillion miles. So after 1 trillion seconds, you're 1/25th of the way to the closest star. You with me?
Yes.
Wow.
You're after 1 trillion seconds, traveling at a ridiculous speed. You're 1/25th of the way to the closest star. Now we'll switch. How long have you been traveling? And don't say 1 trillion seconds. How long is 1 trillion seconds? How much time is 1 trillion seconds?
I couldn't even fathom.
If you, I'll give you a Bitcoin if you can guess it within a day. Just take a stab. Take a stab.
That calculator.
No calculator. No calculator. You have 5 seconds.
1 trillion seconds?
Trillion seconds. Just take a guess.
I don't know, 50 years?
All right. And you want to take a guess too?
75 years.
Very close. 31,000 years. Okay. 1 trillion seconds. 1 trillion seconds is 31,000 years. And you are only 1/25th of the way to the closest star. And you believe that your eye can see that star and that star is bright enough to see. Give me a break.
Yeah.
Okay. It's absolute insanity.
So when I buy a telescope and I focus it on
a star,
Saturn, Jupiter, the moon, what am I looking at?
That's a great question. When you look at stars, they certainly don't look anything like what NASA shows you. There's a star, one of my favorites is Capella. And when you zoom in on it, it's this geometric, pulsating, colored, amazing energy source, right? These things, when you look at the stars, they're nothing like that what they show us. Another one is Arcturus. Arcturus is they all have their own like personality, all right? And they're these energetic light sources. What are they? My guess is that they're souls. Now, some people say, well, they're holes in the firmament. I'm not a buyer of that. I think that the stars are fixed in the firmament. They could be entryways into a light realm, but stars are souls. I kind of like that idea. Could be 100% wrong. Okay,
I like it too.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. And when you look at these stars, they do different things. So what are stars? That's a great question.
I like the experiment that I saw on your YouTube channel with the LED light in the water. and how it almost made the same sort of pattern that the star does.
Absolutely. You think about NASA with everything, the moon, the Sea of Tranquility, and the docks and ships, and it's all nautical terms.
Yeah, yeah.
And when we watch SpaceX do these night launches, it looks like they're skimming across water, right? You see, like, it looks like a boat wake. What's going on?
Yeah.
And then Hillary Clinton at her, her speech after she lost the election, she's like, we're going to break through that glass ceiling. We're going to get through there soon. And they're sticking it in our faces. They're always telling us what they're doing. And when, our consumer optics have outgrown their lies, and we can see too far, we can see things.
Well, I think, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that also would explain the campaign to vilify anybody who follows that line of questioning as a complete insane. I mean, flat earthers are like the bottom rung of the wacko ladder.
Obama 3 times in speeches mentioned the Flat Earth Society.
Yeah.
He's like, we don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society, because he wants you to go to the Flat Earth Society. Flat Earth Society is not flat earthers. It's a government-run disinformation site to make you laugh at this topic.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go back. Go back to the sun. I'm sorry, you didn't finish explaining, and you were just
sorry.
No, that's okay. Hunter had a great question. You said something about you implied it being a projection. How would a projection emit heat?
Yeah, great question. I'll answer that. So the sun. Looking for something. Sun. So I was in Las Vegas at a convention, and I'm sitting out the pool about 3:30 in the afternoon, and the sun is about 45 degrees off my right side, and I was eating some food, and the sun is just blazing on my face. It's just hot. And I'm thinking, I'm going to look, I'm going to be sunburned on one side. I was like, maybe I should go to the other side of the pool and sit, and finish my lunch over there. Right. The hotel is off to my left, and it's a hotel that had big mirrored parts on it. And all of a sudden the sun lined up with one of those mirrors, and I looked at it, and it looks just like the sun. Of course, it's a mirror. Okay. But I could feel the heat bouncing off of that. And the hotel was like 100 yards away. Okay. It was pretty far away. So I closed my eyes before I was a flat earther. I think I was before I was a flat earther. I had to be. No, I was a flat earther. Sorry. I closed my eyes, and I said, if I didn't know which one was the real sun, could I tell? And I couldn't. It was the same intensity, same brightness, same heat. And I'm like, if that reflection could be as hot as that, then that could be a reflection.
On the firmament?
Through the firmament? Maybe the firmament's like a magnifying glass.
Mm-hmm.
You take a magnifying glass when you were a kid, you're burning ants with your magnifying glass, right? I know you did. Don't deny it.
It's a bad karma.
I guess so.
I wasn't that kid.
Yeah,
but I knew people who did that.
I threw frogs just as bad.
Yeah. So you make that I challenge everyone, go get a magnifying glass and make that little point and look at it.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like the sun. And then if you lifted it up 6 inches, it's gone. It's not gone.
Mm-hmm.
It's still there, just in mid space.
Yeah.
If you had something, if you put a piece of paper there or something like some fog there, you would see it. There it would be again. So I think that this is me. It could be something different. That the sun is a focal point, and we all see it in different positions. Like if we were looking at the sunset, we're 100 yards apart or 10 feet apart, standing at the edge of the water. We're both going to see the sun walking across the water to our feet. I'm going to look over at you. I don't see it walking to your feet, and you don't see it walking on the water to my feet. So I would say that we both have our own personal relationship with the sun as it walks on water. Weird. Sounds something like something, that they teach us. The sun dies on the 21st of December. That's the winter solstice for us. That's the one that's out on Capricorn. And then it rises 3 days later. Interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So do you think that geoengineering plays a part in this disinformation propaganda campaign?
I think that the stuff that they do in the sky is for multiple reasons. One, it's to electrify the atmosphere with all of the aluminum that they're putting there.
Barium.
It also, yeah. It also is they have weather control. I mean, Kennedy talked about owning the weather by 2025. We're way ahead of schedule.
Sure.
There is no natural weather anymore. They have storm generators all across the country.
Yeah, there's patents for them that you can look them up.
Yeah, they have cloud makers in the water. They have cloud makers, in these so-called power plants. And so the spraying of the skies, also, are they hiding something? Sometimes when there's like some incredible astrological stuff going on, the spraying is incredible, and can't see it. We're having an amazing eclipse. We're having this alignment. Can't see it.
Yeah.
So there's multiple reasons. Now, I've been on the whole chemtrail bandwagon for, I don't know, but probably 2 decades at this point. And years ago, people said I'm crazy. Now they admit it. There's patents on it. They say that they want to spray the sky. Bill Gates wants to spray the sky, and people don't. They're just like, well, it's for the good of the planet, and they're gonna do it. No, they're doing it now. Wake up, look up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
look up.
He talked about it. He talked about it on 60 Minutes 20 years ago. I mean, it's been something that has been kind of in the zeitgeist for so long. And again, because there was a disinformation campaign to discourage people to really do any critical thinking or look into it, it's totally taken and diffused the energy from people who actually have evidence and have proven that it's happening. You have pilots who have talked about it, who have actually worked on these planes. I've seen photos of the tanks that they use with, the serial numbers on the tanks. I've filmed hundreds of hours of chemtrails. And I think when you say the word chemtrail, it's very much charged like flat Earth. Suddenly you get categorized. It's like, oh, you're one of those people. And it's like, you can look up in the sky and see what's going on. This is not some hidden thing that's happening. It's available for everyone. But I think there's a cognitive dissonance and a mental laziness that affects so many people, because it's what you're saying, like, okay, that may be happening, but what am I supposed to do about it? So how do you deal with that?
That's the story of my life. There's some people, their journey isn't to wake up, and it's not your responsibility to wake them up. It's only for the people that want the information. You can't give a kid advice unless he really asks for it. So you have to set it up that way.
For sure.
And, I love talking to Flat Earth about Flat Earth to anybody, but I have friends that haven't been ready to wake up for years. I had a friend years ago showing him all the conspiracy theories, and just wouldn't buy any of it, wouldn't even look at the New York event and anything else. It's just like, oh, nonsense. Then he was having some health issues, and I got him on distilled water, right? I'm a big distilled water fan. Now, doctors will tell you, don't do that. It'll leach all the minerals out of your body. Well, doctors say no. I say yes, right? Okay. And what happened was he drank the distilled water, and after about 2 months, all of a sudden he calls me up. He goes, holy crap, New York, Connecticut, Boston, flat Earth. And all of a sudden he saw everything. And I'm thinking that it does leach the calcium out of your pineal gland, right? And it helps decalcify. And he was all of a sudden he was able to think again. So I don't know what was your question? I lost my track.
How do you deal when you start to have this dialogue with people?
I just give them little pieces. I ask questions like, they're like, yeah, like we're going to fall off the edge of the earth. And I just go, who says there's an edge? And I leave it. Like, but I have friends, that will poke me about flat earth. We'll be at like a social gathering. Not that I go to many of those anymore because I'm a flat earther. He'll say something and I'll just pose it out a question. I'm like, yeah. And then they don't have it. They have no comebacks. Right. And the thing is, I had a guy today, I was interviewing me from Israel. He's been a flat earther, not that long, but a year or so. And all of his friends and family think he's absolutely insane. And I said to him, I said, what are the chances that any of them or all of them can convince you to go back to the ball? And he's like, 0. There's no possible way. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. And I said, what are the chances over time that you'll be able to convert some of them to flat Earth? And the answer is over 50%. And it all depends on how good you are at communicating.
Right.
Right. And one of the techniques I give people is, and my app is the easiest way to do it. If you tell someone the Earth is flat and they go Google flat Earth, forget it. They're forever ballers.
Of course.
Okay. Because you're going to get all nonsense. But I say, go to your loved one and say, hey, listen, I know that we don't agree on this, but there's this guy. He's offering 3 Bitcoins for 1 proof of the globe. Can you help me? Help me. You think flat Earth is stupid. Okay, maybe it is stupid. Help me. And then if they will start to research with you, so look, I found this video, 21 proofs that the Earth is flat. ODD's video. Have you seen it yet?
No.
It's called A Stranger's Guide to Flat Earth, 21 Questions. And can you help me? And basically, it's about a 40-minute video, 45-minute video showing the top 21 proofs. And again, it's in the app. If you hit the web button and then you hit full-length videos, it's the second video from the top right now.
Okay, cool.
No, the third video from the top, A Stranger's Guide to Flat Earth, 21 Questions. And each one is like, 2, 3, 4 minutes. And they'll go through it with you, and then they'll be like, well, that's not a good one. And they'll listen to the next one. And there's no way they can get through that video without going, like, what the hell's going on here? I had another friend. This just happened today, yesterday. I've sent him videos, and he's like, I'm not buying it. There would be whistleblowers. There'd be, what about all the pilots? They, what are they all in on it? And I'm like, no, they just don't know. And some of them do, but they can't speak out because they lose their jobs and everything. So I sent him the new video that just came out. That is, it's called Flattening the Curve. And it's all pilots and Navy guys. And he called me up and he goes, what the heck is going on? He goes, and he's asking me questions now. So he's done. He's cooked, right? Once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
And I also say to people, if your partner, your significant other is not a flat earther, well, they have no chance of waking you up, but you have a great chance of waking them up, especially if you have a good relationship. And the way I tell them that is, I say, well, do you get the app? And just say, do me a favor. Let's just each day we'll watch the featured video, and then we'll talk about it over dinner or breakfast or lunch or whatever, whenever we're together. And we'll just have a short conversation each day. There's no way you can go through 2 weeks of those videos without having more and more and more questions. So that's, ways to do that. Have you guys used the friend finder on the app yet?
No.
So on the app, I have a thing called the Flat Earth Friend Finder. You click the handshake button, and what it does is it shows you the other app users all around the world. And
Wow.
they all show up as blue dots. Orange dots are people that are new within the last 60 days. And you could tap on one of the dots and pull up the person's profile if they filled out their profile, and you can message them, or I set mine to 50 kilometers, and I could hit the button on the top, and I could send a message out to 295 people all at once.
Wow.
Hey, we're having a flat Earth meetup at Joe's Bar and Grill Saturday at 4 p.m. 123 Main Street. Bam, instant meetup. And let me tell you something about this. There's also, I'm talking to so many people, so many shows. The couple on the show, they found each other on the app. There's people getting married on the app. There's people hiring people on the map, right? Because if you're a flat earther, you don't want to work for somebody that's asleep.
Sure.
And if you're a flat earther, you don't want to hire somebody that's asleep. So any one of these dots on here you have a more in common with that person than any dating site or job application will find. So people are using this to find work, to find companionship. Everyone on there, male or female, is your best friend. Nothing's better than having a meetup. You do a meetup, you send it out. You guys are in Kansas. Let's look at Kansas. I'll go to Kansas and see what happens. So if we zoom in on Kansas, where is Kansas?
Smack dab in the middle.
smack dab in the middle. So there's pockets of people all over. Is this Kansas right here?
Yeah.
Oh, that's okay. So look at all those people. You can send out a message, have a meetup at a public place, wherever, park, whatever. People show up. I guarantee you, every single person that shows up, you're going to take down their contact information. You're going to start a Telegram group. You guys are going to be friends. They did it in Arizona before we even had the group messaging. Somebody took the time, messaged every dot individually, and now they meet like the first Sunday of every month at some place, and they have this Telegram group. Forget it.
That's great.
This is a game changer.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and the one thing about it, people, because it's getting pretty big, the trolls are coming out of nowhere. It's a tracking app. They're tracking you. Well, guess what? If you have a smartphone, you're being tracked. If you have a banking app on your phone, they're listening to everything. They're everything. Forget it. But the app has your approximate location. It only puts you within 5 miles of your location, or you can change it to your exact location, or you can turn it off so it doesn't locate you at all, or you can go into the app settings and scroll down to where the button is, and if you turn it off, it removes it from the app. So for anyone that's paranoid, you can actually remove that feature from the app. I made this, mind you, I made this for people that are conspiracy minded. So I got I got you covered.
You covered all the bases.
I covered all the bases.
What are your thoughts about the hollow earth theory?
Yeah. The hollow earth theory is,
or does it fit into this cosmology?
No, the hollow earth theory is, I'm trying to think of a way to say it. I believe that there are levels below us and above us, but we don't live inside. There's not a hollow ball. We're not living on the inside of a ball, because there'd be reverse curvature there. There'd be all sorts of issues. There'd be movement, all of the stuff. I think that the hollow earth was brought out when Admiral Byrd went out there and said there's more land and everything. So then he died in his sleep shortly after that. Funny, a lot of people die in their sleep. They have heart attacks. And then information came out that he flew into this magical land in a hole in Antarctica, basically just to distract people. That's my understanding of the hollow earth. I think it's complete and total nonsense. It's literally the globe earth, but just inside out, which is even worse. Okay. The globe is a lie to imprison your mind. The movie The Matrix with Keanu Reeves is a documentary of our life. Okay. Look at Keanu at the beginning of the first movie. He's depressed. He's sleeping a lot. He's locked in his apartment, and he's like, something's wrong with the world. He's trying to figure it out. He can't figure it out. Okay. He's literally just a little man, and he's just like, can't figure it out. Then they unplug him from the Matrix. He figures out who he is, where he is, what he is, and more importantly, the power of his own mind. And then look at the Neo at the very end of the movie. Now, if you cut the movie and brought those two Neos together, you got your Neo at the beginning, a weak old, lost man, and a fully empowered man who knows who he is. That's what Flat Earth does. It takes you out of the mind matrix, lets you see reality.
Right.
And then the power of your mind, and you become a much better manifester. Okay.
Have you heard about the theory that Neo is actually the virus and Mr. Smith is actually the one? That was a video, a viral video, no pun intended, that was going around for a while, about a year or so ago.
I don't believe anything that's going on. I mean, we know that they're trying to do the Great Reset. You know about the Georgia Guidestones, I assume.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. They want the population down 95% to 500 million. I don't believe that the population is what they say the population is.
Exactly.
I know, because this is going to be on YouTube, I'm going to say something very coded. Okay.
I love it.
So they tell us that there's 7.8 billion people on Earth.
Right.
Okay. All right. 7.8 billion people. And each one of them needs to get this and the thing in the arm.
Right.
Three times so far, and it's going to be more. So there's 31,536,000 seconds in a year. So let's say the V companies that make the thing that goes in your arm, they can make one every second, 24/7, no days off. Okay, right? And there's 5 of those V companies. So if they all made one V every second, they'd have 157,680,000 per year. Well, let's say each one of those 5 companies has 5 plants that are making them around the clock, no days off, okay? Which they don't. And that means they can make 788,400,000 a year. Well, guess what? It would take 10 years at that rate without a break for them to make one for every person on Earth. And they're telling us that, they did this already and they've already given more than 7.8 billion Vs. So what is going on? They're lying either about the percentage of people or the number of people that have it, or more likely, they're lying about the number of people here on Earth. I don't think the population of Earth is even close to 7.8 billion.
I agree. It's just
This is impossible. Yeah. Impossible.
It's to create the illusion of scarcity. That's the way they can hold up that whole narrative.
Scarcity and make you feel insignificant.
Yeah.
Right?
Sure.
So every family in the United States could have a half an acre in Texas and the rest of the country would be empty. Okay? We're running out of food. You go into your garage one day and you find your grandmother had a jar of seeds and then it's 75 years old. You can take one of those seeds, you can stick it in the ground, water will fall from the sky, which is amazing, and food will grow out of the ground.
Right.
Okay? There's no food shortage.
Exactly.
Okay? There's no food shortage. We talked about nukes, nonsense. Asteroids don't exist, right? The oil, the oil that's supposedly dinosaur bones. So what a joke! Dinosaurs never existed. You know that too because you listen to Crow. Okay,
Exactly.
And the wells are full. The empty wells are full again. Where did it come from? Okay, where did it come from? Speaking of Crow, so you guys are highly educated. Where did you learn all this stuff? Did you learn it in college?
No.
What did you learn in college? You learned how to be a good little worker slave. That's
exactly.
it. That's it. And you learned how to drink and party and eat pizza.
You right? learned what lines to color in between.
Yes, exactly. And you learn, how to work in corporate America. There's very, very little on becoming an entrepreneur. I remember, I heard the word entrepreneur as a grade school kid, and I'm like, "What is that?" I'm like, "No, you can't do that. That the chances of that working are slim to none." And that's what they want you to believe. They want you working in these ridiculous jobs. Here's what I tell people with college age kids: you're out of your mind sending them to a school, even if they get a full ride. Forget it. Get a couple families, rent a house somewhere nice on the beach down in Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. Have the kid get a little part-time job at the kite surfing school or whatever, something, right? And then every day they listen to a Crow episode.
Yeah, exactly.
They listen to a Crow episode, and at the end of the week, they discuss them.
Right.
I even think 5 episodes a week might be even too much. How about 3 episodes a week? Okay. And if it's a really nice day, just go out for a bike ride, go on the beach, go fishing, go do something, go gardening, right? Go for a hike, right? At the end of 4 years, that kid's going to be smarter than any college kid. I would hire that kid long before anyone with a summa cum laude, whatever average.
Absolutely.
Right? That they would be the smartest, most awake and aware kids. And I also say people, you're going to spend, $400,000 on your kid going to a good school. I go, rent them the house, right? Take 50,000 of that, throw it into a whole bunch of cryptos and leave it there for 4 years, right? I told that to my wife, my girlfriend's daughter when she was going to college. Now she's out of college. And I said, do you realize if you did what I told you, you'd be a world-class kite surfer and a multimillionaire right now. But now she's commuting into New York City and wanting to kill herself.
Oh.
Okay.
I have a question to circle back to the Hollow Earth discussion just very quickly. I have this weird set of books that's called Weird ... So the one is like Weird USA, Weird Missouri. I have one that's Weird California. And one of the stories in that book is about the blue people that came out of the Santa Monica Mountains. Do you think it's possible that as we're talking about layers above and layers below us, that there are actual cave systems or...
Absolutely, 100%. There's cave systems. There was giants here. There's probably giants still here. When people say Bigfoot or Sasquatch, that's a thing, right? It's not a primitive animal. You know, I know people that have had experiences, and I think that they're extremely smart and they know how dangerous humans are and they stay clear of us. You know, have you guys gone down the Tartaria rabbit hole yet?
I have yet to do that, but that's like next on my list.
In the app, under the web button, there's a Tartaria mud floods button.
Cool.
If you click that button, bring food and water. All right. Okay. And just above that, there's another one called The Lost History of Flat Earth. The top video on that list is 5 hours.
Wow.
Okay. Let me tell you about that video. That one showed up like a year ago. And a whole bunch of people sent it to me. And I'm like, 5 hours? I don't have time for this, right? You know, and I had it on the back burner. And one night around 11 o'clock, I was just finishing up some stuff. And I said, let me just put this on in the background, okay? 5 minutes in, I stopped doing what I'm doing. I'm looking at it. Next thing I know, it's 4 a.m. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. And I was so pumped up. And I watched it again the next day. I watched it again, okay? Once you start seeing the Tartarian stuff, it will absolutely blow your mind. And, you know, there's no question that there was an advanced civilization here. Advanced. You know, you look at the buildings that are here, you know, that were built when we had horses and buggies.
Yeah.
Horses and buggies.
Exactly.
Right? None of it makes any sense. And underneath our Capitol building is another building.
Yes.
Why is there a buried building underneath there? You know, it just gets deeper and deeper, but all of this relates to flat Earth. It's all about hiding our history. It's all about resetting our knowledge. The way they control us is divide and separate. You've heard that. Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer.
Exactly.
They divided us up by countries, divided us up by religions, by politics, by sexes, by genders. Right. They're dividing the genders now. They're dividing us masked, unmasked, right? Vaxxed, unvaxxed. And all of this divide. Because if we come together, we challenge them. Yep. Right? If we come together, we challenge them. You know, a flat earther out there trying to wake up people by themselves, you know, I'm pretty good at it. But when I have other people around me, I'm 10 times more powerful, 100 times more powerful. Right? So that's why we need to come together. We need to wake people up, because if everyone woke up tomorrow, it's over. We win.
Especially when you look at the numbers, because if you're talking about the quote unquote elite or the 1%, it's a very small number of people compared to the population of the earth, even if it isn't 7.5 or 7.8 billion people. There are enough people globally who could overpower these very weak, physically weak people, not even weak. Mentally, but I think physically they don't have the strength to take on as many humans that there truly are.
I think that the currency of this world is souls, and our souls are a spark of the Creator. Yeah. And our job here is to maintain control of our soul.
Yes.
And the way to do that is not by not breaking anyone else's free will. I think that these soulless leaders, they know that, but they've already given up their souls. They've sold their souls. So they need us to create the world that they want, because they can't do it without us. Without your soul, you don't have your manifestation abilities anymore, right? So they need us to create the world. So they steer our mind with the news. NEWS, north, east, west, south.
Right.
It's literally steering our minds. keeping us in fear,
Right.
keeping us in this ridiculous belief of this heliosatanic system, and hiding the fact that there is a creator and we're here at the center of creation and we are part of that creation.
Okay, so that leads me to a question right there.
It should be probably the last one, though.
Where do the other quote unquote alien races, reptilians, where do they fit into this?
So, there's a whole stuff about shape shifting, Prince Andrew and stuff.
Yeah.
They're turning into, I can't rule it out. Haven't seen it myself, but there's some serious freaking testimony about it. And there's so many underground tunnels and all sorts of stuff, like way, way beyond what even most researchers realize. There's a whole world below us. And that underworld is completely hidden from those of us that don't know, haven't seen. So, there's a lot of crazy, insane stuff that some of our minds are just unable to imagine, let alone speak out verbally. We've gotten a little taste of it where we're seeing what's going on with, the pedophile stuff and the elites and all that stuff. It's far, far, far deeper than that. So these other races or whatever, I believe that there's extraterrestrials mixed in with us all over the place. When I say extraterrestrials, they come from the extraterra here across the Earth plane.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Nothing from outer space. Remember, the closest star, you're going to travel all that distance to come here and crash in Roswell? I don't think so. Okay.
Well, we recently had a guest, Ryan Musgrave Evans, who called them crypto-terrestrials. Yeah, like they're still from our plane of existence, but they're not from necessarily anywhere else, which I thought was very interesting too. Explains a lot of underground bases, people that have like thin places where a lot of paranormal things happen, or where these creatures exist under the surface.
Look at Norwegians. I think they're extraterrestrial. I think they moved. Okay.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely.
For sure. There's no doubt. And I did a talk with Sophia Smallstorm. You can find it on my YouTube channel, DITRH. It's called The Outward Flow of Civilizations. Right? You guys are familiar with the Bostock Saga, where all life started at the center of a flat Earth and the sun. So the sun was born in the center under a star. The sun was born under Polaris, okay? Right? Where the kingdom of God is, right? And so think of the Earth as a frozen plain. The sun is born and it starts circling around and creates a puddle.
Right.
And we're all here. Okay. And so that sun is doing what it's doing now. It's migrating in between the two tropics. It's melted everything else out and then out. And then when you're outside of Capricorn, you can no longer, it no longer melts and everything's frozen out there. Okay. So perhaps one day, imagine this, one day we wake up and the sun never returns from Capricorn. It only goes out farther. And then the closest in it gets is Capricorn. What's going to happen to all of North America? It's frozen, right? Everything's frozen. So let's say that lasts for 10 years or 100 years or 1,000 years. Okay. Well, it's frozen. And what are we going to do? Well, we're here, it's warmer in the south, so we're all going to migrate out south. We're all going to migrate out south, okay? So we migrate out south, and we're now living out here. All of the center is frozen, right? And now you have some nomads there. You got some Eskimos, we're hanging in there. The sun never comes up. We're like, this is just horrible. And then one day, another sun is born in here. What are you going to do? Let's say you've been here. It's been, 2 decades and you're still surviving somehow. And all of a sudden a sun is born, an actual warm, beautiful sun. What are you going to say? You're going to look up at the sun and say, my
God,
my God, my savior.
Yeah.
He's going to feed you.
Yes.
He's going to warm you. He's going to make it so you can see.
Sun worship.
I don't think sun worship's a bad thing.
Sure.
I worship the sun. I love the sun.
So does George Carlin.
And so this can go on again and again and again, where things just keep on going farther and farther outwards. And that's one theory. Another one, which I really like, is I was telling you about the lost history of flat Earth,
Mm-hmm.
and you know about the Prague clock.
I have seen the Prague clock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's weird what this thing's doing.
Yeah.
So what is it actually showing? And the answer to that is, if I could find this, where did it go? Is that the sun moves? Well, our entire realm moves around. Okay, I should be able to find this, and for some reason I can't. Where did it go? I'll show it on the app instead. So imagine we live in a bigger realm, okay? A much bigger realm. And the sun is making a little puddle on part of that bigger realm. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And over the course of time, the sun moves around that realm, and it takes here we go. It takes 25,000 years to make a full circle. Okay. So every 15 degrees is an age, and that's 2,160 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I'm showing here is a giant map of the greater Earth. And this little green area here, this is our known Earth. And this red ring here is where our North Pole is right there. And our North Pole moves around this once every 25,000 years. And when it moves, all the stars and the sun and the moon, they move with it. So in 12,000 years from now, our living world will be over here, and over here will be an ice age. That would explain why they're finding stuff under the ice in Antarctica.
Right.
Right? So our realm migrates around in a great year, and everybody, travels with it. Maybe that's why, many of the elite are moving to off of Australia, Great Barrier Reef. What's the island? I'm spaced
Not
out.
Tasmania.
No,
that's the south.
Australia, and next to Australia, I'm
New Zealand.
New Zealand. Thank you. Okay. Something's going on in New Zealand. New Zealand is something big is going on in New Zealand. Don't know what it is yet, but that's a possibility. Can't rule it out.
I love it. Well,
You have literally blown my mind.
absolutely.
I absolutely love it. Please come back on the show.
But actually, before we let you go, are there any starter books that you could recommend to people besides your fantastic app and all the videos on there? Are there any books?
So on the app, if you click the books button,
hey,
Nice.
look at this.
Holy shit.
Tons of books.
My
Fantastic.
Tons of books all in here.
Amazing.
Right? And one of the books, the first one there is 16 Emergency Landings. You can get that free online as a PDF, but I recommend the coffee table book because let's say you have a couple over, you're having dinner, you're in the kitchen cooking, and your guest picks up the book and holds it for more than 2 minutes. Well, they got to go explain to their kids now why they're flat earthers. Right? There's no stopping. A great book, The Elusive Curve. Great. They talk about that in the documentary that you guys are going to watch when we're done called
Yes.
Flatten the Curve.
Mm-hmm.
And then, there's the Holy Grail of the Great Reset. Martin Leakey, he's a flat earther, and he just it gets into Tataria and everything. Amazing works. There's so much. And another one I recommend is The Iron Republic, a story of in the late 1800s of an explorer that went through Antarctica and found land on the other side and found an advanced civilization out there that had left the inner world in the 1600s.
Yeah, I heard
because
about
of tyranny.
that.
Could
Yeah.
you imagine tyranny in the inner world? Crazy.
Wow.
Maybe that's why they don't want us to know, because right now everybody would be like, all right, see ya,
No
I'm out of
shit.
here.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So like a breakaway civilization.
Yeah, there's so many great books, and I highly recommend stockpile books because one day
Yes.
all of this digital stuff is going to
Yeah.
be gone.
That's
Exactly.
right.
And books are going to be the new currency.
Absolutely. Well, cool. That is great. What a great resource.
I love your app. David, you've put so much time and energy into that. That is fantastic.
Yeah, and I'm constantly adding new additions to it. The app is $3, and it's highly underpriced. Everyone says it.
Yes.
And you get everything. The only thing that you don't get with the $3 is the weather. If you tap on the weather, it brings up dark sky, which is actually amazing. It's like one of the best weather apps, and it gives you charts and extended weather and all sorts of stuff. And that, I think the dark sky app itself is like $3 a month just to have it. But it
Gotcha.
comes with the app. It comes with the subscription on the app. You get the friend finder. You can receive messages, but you can't send messages without the subscription. The subscription is $11 a year. Okay, $11 a year. It's a little less than Crow, a lot less than Crow. Okay, Crow's $5 a month, I think. $8 a month. It's not $40,000 a semester. And
Yes,
it should be.
exactly.
Okay, so it's $11. All right, you're buying me a margarita and you're leaving $1 for the bartender. Okay, all right, or it's 99 cents a month, but you don't need it if you don't want the weather and don't want to message other people. Then it's just $3, and you have an app that's just go read the reviews. It's the highest rated in the App Store. It's called the Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. It's by Blue Water Bay. You have to make sure it's by Blue Water Bay because in the Android App Store, there's already a Flat Earth Society knockoff using the same name that's going to gatekeep you. And I used to get emails from people going, "I got your app and I can't find the videos." I'm like, "You don't have my app,
Yeah,
That sucks.
It's all right." So check it out. If you forget the name, it's the longest name ever. Flat Earth Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app, only to be rivaled by Flat Earth Banjo USA and Japan YouTube channel. Okay.
Catchy.
You can find everything. You can find everything at, and by the way, I just learned that name without screwing it up. It's after 5 years. Okay. FlatEarthDave.com. You can find, if you're a show that wants to book me, there's a Book Dave thing there. If you have an issue with your app, there's a support button there. If you forgot the name of the app download link is right there. My YouTube channel, DITRH, right here, is there, which is all short videos. Most of my videos are under 5 minutes, right?
Cool.
And then I have the Flat Earth app channel, which has tons of videos, many that have been on the app. And then I have the Dave interview channels where this interview will be along with many of the other ones.
Fantastic.
wonderful.
Thanks so much, Dave, for coming on. It's been a blast, and I've learned a hell of a lot, and I really hope that you will come back again because I
Reach
have
out, no problem. Sure,
tons
sure
more
thing.
questions.
Please do.
Yes.
We want to check back in with you, and see how things are going in the next few months.
Feel free.
We're kind of in an interesting time in history, so we look forward
Oh,
to
yes.
talking to you again.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
there's lots more to discuss for sure. So, all right. Thanks for all the work you do, David.
Appreciate
All right, guys.
it.
Yes.
Thanks.
Bye.
Have a good evening.
See you. Bye-bye.
Super, super interesting interview. David has done some incredible research, and he has put together just a clearinghouse of data and information, videos, books, just some truly mind-blowing stuff. And as you and I have talked before, I'm kind of baby new to this world. And so I'm not at the place where I can say definitively what my opinion is one way or the other. And I think that's a great place to be because this is something that a lot of people don't even think about. And I think there's a lot of merit to the work that he has done and the time that he's put into it. And so I'm excited to delve further into the subject.
Yeah. I find it incredibly compelling. And I think after you look into reality the way that we have and the way probably a lot of you out there have, and you realize as you peel the layers back that so many things have been rigged and steered in a particular direction. So many things have distracted us from what is really going on many different layers of life and reality. Our educational system, our medicinal system, there's got to be a better word for it. Our education, did I say education already?
You said education already. Our political system.
Political, yes, absolutely.
Culture.
Yes, all very susceptible to being manipulated. And, Flat Earth is one of those topics that is highly, highly censored and very stigmatized. And that always sends a red flag up to me and tells me that I need to look closer, for sure.
Well, and you wonder why, if it isn't true and it isn't well documented and there isn't evidence, then who the fuck cares if someone believes that the earth is flat?
Yeah.
Why would you go to such pains to discredit people? And
Exactly.
I think that's the thing with anything that has been kind of like the official narrative. When you kind of peek behind the velvet curtain and you realize, oh wait, there's people involved here who are making it their business to discourage critical thinking and discourage questioning. And I think that's what kind of draws me into these subjects, because I think, well, if I'm not supposed to look at this, and if this immediately qualifies me as a conspiracy theorist, why?
Yeah.
Like, why would people care? And I think, I've had some experiences online with friends who are flat earthers. And I hate to use that term because it seems so divisive and almost seems to discredit someone. But I've had friends who follow this line of thinking. And if you go onto these threads where they start to have these dialogues with people, I've seen other friends, mutual friends, say, I'm really concerned about your mental health. And, you're saying things that are really crazy, and it makes you seem like maybe you need to seek counseling or seek therapy or something. So it flies in the face of what the official story is and the official narrative so much that if you even delve into it slightly, then people automatically just lump you in to this category. Mm-hmm. It's like believing or having an alien experience and then trying to tell people about it. They immediately think that you've had some kind of a psychotic break. So for me, I think it's important to be able to look at all the evidence.
Yeah. And once once you start looking into these things, you realize how much of our reality, or what we think is our reality, is based on either hearsay or a bunch of guessing. So much of science is guessing. Like, well, we have the math to figure out how far this is away from here, how old this artifact is, so on and so forth. But it's just guesswork. There's no way to test any of that shit. So, so why place any more emphasis on that than something like Flat Earth? And I think, I don't remember whether it was Shooting the Moon, the Crow documentary, or one of his episodes where I heard Crow say something like, more importantly than believing in this or that, it's keeping your mind open and listening to everything, taking everything in, and then sorting through it yourself and seeing what feels, what speaks to your gut. And something about this really, not only does it really tickle me in a very childlike kind of way, like it imbues the universe with a different layer of magic than it had when I was a kid, but it makes some sort of sense to me. I could see how the things that David was talking about could be how it is, or at least closer to how it is than the model that we have now, which there's a lot of that doesn't make sense to me, and it never did when I was a kid either.
Well, from my perspective, because I'm in college right now and I'm dealing with science and the scientific method and actually doing experiments, and in a lab setting where you have 10 or 12 people actually doing the exact same experiment, and you see how variant the results are, it's easy to look at science and say, okay, someone has just kind of thrown a dart at a dartboard and said, well, this is what we're going to call this. We are going to assign this to this. Yes. The whole idea behind scientific method is that it's reproducible. But we just did an experiment with Alka-Seltzer and temperature, and every single person in the class got a different result. And the reason is because the things that everyone is using have even the slightest bit of difference, and so you're going to get a different result. So how am I supposed to believe that there is some gold standard across the board that we call scientific method, and that is the one and only standard? There's so many variables that have to be considered. I think that one takeaway that I got from David is that, if you go into a education system, you have to understand that their job is to kind of spit you through the other side. So they're giving you information, and your job is to basically just circle the right answer out of, a multiple choice test. And so is that really teaching you anything, or is it putting you in a state of mind where you're just trying to immediately memorize something so that you can immediately regurgitate it and then move on to the next thing?
And how limiting is the world of the reproducible? Like, most of the most incredible things in life, events in life, aren't reproducible. There's no way you can drag many things into a lab and just set up the right circumstances and bingo, then this thing is going to happen again. Some things aren't like that. There are many things that aren't like that.
And also, one thing that has been proven in the scientific method is that the observer plays a part in the experiment.
For sure.
So this is why double-blind studies are so important, and that's why they are considered the gold standard. Because if I go in to do some research project on something and I have a certain state of mind, my state of mind is influencing that research. Mm-hmm. So I think in many ways, it's all up for grabs. And we have to be, once again, as we talked about in the David Charles Plate interview, we have to be willing to drill into things a little bit more, not necessarily accept things for face value. Our job as humans is critically think, to really examine things and not just accept the official story because that's the easiest road.
For sure. And corporate funding also has something to do with the result of a science experiment too, or at least the one that they're going to tell you about. I think, I'm just saying that because I think science is just as easily corruptible, although it's seen as a fucking religion these days, as politics, as the medical industrial complex, as any of these institutions are.
Absolutely.
They're rife with corruption.
Well, because people want to maintain their research grants. They want to dial into whatever that funding is and make sure that they're giving the results that these funders want.
And when you cordon off whole sections of reality like flat Earth, past that point is malarkey. Questioning the COVID narrative past that point is unacceptable. Once you start setting up these boundaries, then you limit the possibilities of what you're allowed to comprehend or present as a part of the bigger picture. And that's just simply ethically disgenuine. I mean, that's just not a way that you should conduct any of your navigation through existence, thinking that there's only these safe little corners that we can explore, or that we're allowed to explore, and that we have to stay away from the other parts because we might get labeled something. Like, that is such an utterly divisive way of keeping people in line as far as what they're allowed to imagine this existence contains.
Well, what I see when I see someone who, immediately gives the eye roll when you talk about a subject like this, or any subjects that maybe fall outside of the official narrative, what I see is someone who's exhibiting a lack of intelligence, a lack of critical thinking skills, and a lack of imagination. And isn't that, again, shouldn't these be like the basic tenets of your human existence? Yeah. Shouldn't we be curious about the world around us? Is the only system, is your God politics? Is your God medicine? Is your God media? And if it is, then maybe, just maybe, you may want to do some inner soul searching and say, what have I signed on to in this life?
That's one of the points that Crow brings up a lot too, is that this society is designed to sort of sublimate the natural world with a synthetic world. All of these endeavors, schools, politics, medicine, everything that we've been talking about, science to a certain degree, they're not referring to the natural world for guidance, for a set of, for a structure to, it's so hard to articulate. It seems like we're being taken away from nature and we're trying to substitute it with something else. And I'm having a really hard time. I've got a picture in my head of what I want to communicate, but it's not coming out very well. But
the artificial world?
The artificial world, yeah.
The synthetic world?
Sure. I mean, that's kind of what all of this jibber-jabber is, what we're allowed to think, what we're taught in our educational systems. They don't have a lot to do with just, are these institutions teaching people how to grow their own food? Could they navigate a ship in a huge body of water in the middle of the night? Like, they have nothing to do with the world. They have nothing to do with our real environment that we are in the context of our plane of existence that we live on and the greater universe, whatever that may or may not be on the other side of the firmament. I have no idea. They're concerned with worldly shit, and not in a natural kind of way, but in a very convoluted, this is what you need to do to exist in this industrialized world and make money and make sure you have a secure future for your children. And all that stuff is just fakery. It's a distraction from what is real.
Well, to play the advocate for higher education, there's two things that I want to say about that. One is that you get out of that what you put into that. I think that that's why they focus on people of a certain age going to school. So you take someone that's straight out of high school and put them in college, and they're very susceptible and malleable and easy to manipulate, and maybe not as skeptical as someone who is 40 or 50 years old.
Minds to mold.
Right. And I think that has a lot to do with it. So there's a encouragement to go straight out of high school into another indoctrination system. I think if you've gone and lived a life as I have, and then have gone back into school, then I'm bringing a different energy to the table. I'm more skeptical. I don't buy the official narrative. There's a lot of pushback with me in my classes. And what's amazing is how receptive my teachers are to that, because it's almost like I've woken them up again and reminded them what they're there for. And it's not just spitting people out of the system. And I've had teachers say this, I'm not here to show you what to think. What I'm here to do is help you to critically think. So I think, again, there's good people. Yes, they do teach you horticulture. Yes, they do. It's all what you're willing to focus on and what you want to put your energy into. You want to go to business school and learn accounting, or you want to learn how to do marketing and sell advertising. Sure, there's that hell realm you can dive yourself into. But there's also philosophy. There's also religion. There's also art. There's also other layers that you can kind of dive into if that's what you're curious about and you're interested in.
Yeah, I guess I would like to see institutions of learning be more places where you go just for the seeking of knowledge, whether you apply that to some occupation or your career or something like that is optional, but you should just be able to go and learn stuff. And of course you can. It costs lots of money and potentially
or it can be free. It just depends. Again, we can't paint the world with a broad brush and then turn around and say that other people are doing that. It's nuance. That's one thing we have to remember, is that this life is what you decide to put into it, and it's also what you decide to focus on, and it's also decide what you want to get out of it.
Very true. All very true. Yeah, I have a chip on my shoulder as far as academia is concerned, if that hasn't been made perfectly obvious. But shall we end this rant and say that we are so glad that you made it this far. Hopefully you got something out of our chat with David Weiss. I certainly did, and I really can't wait to have him back because I have lots more questions, as I'm sure Hunter does too. If you would like to get a hold of us to tell us your thoughts about the show or suggest any guests, you can email us at themeltpodcast at protonmail.com or
hunter-muse@protonmail.com.
Go to the website, www.themeltpodcast.com, and you will see links to our Discord channel, Telegram channel, and soon, hopefully by the time this episode is out, a merch page where you can get lots of luxurious, colorful, fashionable melt apparel. Let's see, am I missing anything?
I can't wait to get my melt merkin.
Oh, I don't know if they have that in the Teespring store as an option, but I'll look into it. And
how about nipple clamps? No? Pasties?
That's in, perhaps. It's not a burlesque supply store here. What kind of a sleazy joint do you think this is?
Mankini?
Mankini. The Mankinian candidate. Okay. Thank you all very much for listening, and we hope you've enjoyed the show and listened to me actually in the recording after this during the fade out music, and you will learn how to become a Patreon if you choose to do so. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
Stay tuned for more loveliness and knowledge and curiousness. If you've liked what you've heard and would like to contribute to The Melt, there are a few ways that you can do that. The most tangible would be financially. Just click the Patreon link in the episode notes, and there you will find ways that you can contribute for as little as $3 a month. This will give you access to bonus episodes, early access to regular episodes, and you can also participate in monthly Zoom meetups. Contributing financially will also help make The Melt better, pay the bills, and help to make this podcast a full-time endeavor that I can fully devote my time to and provide you with more content. Another way of contributing would be to go to wherever it is that you subscribe to The Melt and give it a favorable review or rating, and this will help it to reach more people. You can also spread the word to friends and family via social media, email, or word of mouth. And lastly, if none of those options are readily available or appealing to you, simply send your positive thoughts and intentions. In an interconnected and quantumly entangled multiverse, these also go a long way. Thank you.